I'll hit record for people who can't be with us tonight and say hello for our final webinar. Yeah, a little bit sad. I feel and how wonderful to hear, Harry's continuing on and Marianne's going great. Kathleen, hello Kathleen. Mark wants more. That's a good sign, Maddie. If at the end of, so many weeks you're still in there. So welcome, welcome, welcome. So tonight really is more about you guys than anything else. So please, any questions, and I quickly logged on to our website, and I will go back to our group in a second because there are a lot of questions. I'm so excited. I'm a little bit late today because I was working in West London, and and I've seen that there's about 5 or 6 questions on the wall, which is fantastic. So I'll go back and look at those in a minute. And what we'll do tonight is just do some recapping, but I would love to hear from you guys. How are you? How is it going? I know that I give you guys a complex message about finding your own diet, which is much more complicated than just telling you what to eat. But we'll go over the main points because I know that Mark, we were talking today on the wall about exactly that. And for those of you that haven't caught up, Mark just trawled through a few talks and he's exactly spot on. Within about 4 talks, you have 4 completely different diets with 4 completely contradictory, irreconcilable differences between these different diets. So please don't let that spook you once the reboot's over. Trust yourselves, trust your own bodies. But before we get there, well done. Look how far you've come. Can any of you now just take a moment to think back to the beginning of February? How were you feeling at the beginning of February? So how was your last Christmas, then the beginning of the year, and then early February, filling out the forms, getting ready to come into this reboot? What weight were you? How well did you feel? Set your minds back a little bit. How did you feel when you woke up in the morning? Were you taking your sugars regularly? If you're diabetic, not everybody.
The time is 9:05 p.m.
Oh, shush. My phone just shouted at me. Sorry about that. Were you taking your sugars regularly? Were you in a state about your health? Were you anxious? Do you feel less anxious now? I'd love to hear from you. Compared to February, how do you feel now? And what was the hardest part about it? I know for some of you, the shock for the new guys, because I've got a new gang coming on very soon. I'm going to start posting on their wall in about 3 days. And for the new people, if you haven't cooked for a couple of years, that first week is a bit of a shocker, isn't it? So Harry says, felt like I was dying. 266 pounds and wine was my crutch. Harry, you wrote something just beautiful today on the wall about kind of, these weren't your words, but it was all over and you were just in the wind down. And the idea that you're not anymore, that the future can be better than the present and the past, that even when we're older, and I'm in my 50s now, that we look forward to the future and that we will be more well in the future. You may well find that you can be more well in your 60s and 70s than you were in your 40s and 50s. How insane is that? But that's the kind of thing that can happen. There are 2 clocks in the body. There's the chronological clock that follows time, but there's the biological clock. And the way that Harry was talking on the wall today is so clear that he is getting younger. And I don't know if you're feeling younger, Harry, but this is the big gift of the reboot. Joe is younger now than he was 15 years ago, if that makes any sense. Chronologically, he's older, but compared to how he was, He's a younger man. He's a more vibrant man. He can keep up in a way that he couldn't do when he was, whining and dining and had a cigar, clenched between his teeth and he was a master of the universe. But Mark, hey. When may it be considered safe to go off metformin without being too rebellious? Would it be unsafe to go off it cold? Should we wait for the man in the white coat to tell us when to stop it? Oh, look, that's such a hard question for me to give you a proper answer to. Metformin is easier than insulin. Insulin, you absolutely, without doubt, must work with your doctor with. You have to make sure that your insulin doses are right. With metformin, I would go off metformin if you're feeling really solid, you're feeling like your bloods are well maintained. I would push more towards going off metformin if it makes you feel ill or heavy or it upsets your digestive system. If you tolerate metformin well, metformin's unusual. It's a really old medication. It's off script now, which is perhaps an English term, which means that it's out of patent, it's cheap. And we know a lot about it because people have been taking it for decades. And we also know that in the cell, it behaves almost a little bit like an antioxidant. So in the bodybuilding world, excuse me, in San Francisco at the moment, you will find people putting themselves on metformin because they want the life expectancy and the cancer protection that metformin can give them. Now, I've met people on metformin where metformin made them miserable. They had constant stomach problems, they felt heavy, they felt ill, and they felt much happier off metformin. But in general, metformin will carve 10 to 15% off your blood sugar readings and protect you from cancer. So if you're doing okay on metformin, that's the one diabetes medication that I, as a naturopath, would say chug along on. But if you feel horrible, then go off it. But make sure that your sugars are good before you go off it. I hope that helps, Mark. Now 229 and no more wine. I'm the proof of that after 60 days. And Anne is saying, I was 2 sizes larger. 2 sizes. Anne, that's amazing. Sluggish and tired. Now I have energy and believe I can keep the weight off. My blood sugar averages are the low 90s. I am so much more active, and that's fantastic. And after the reboot, a few of you will get a little bit of rebound weight gain. Please don't let that spook you. The little bit of rebound weight gain that you get isn't a problem. It's freaking out and giving up and then eating everything in sight and being horrible to yourself. That will send you into a spiral. But if you go, nah, Ray said that, your body will panic a little bit. You've lost weight, you're going to die, even if you've come from over 300 pounds to under 300 pounds or 400 pounds to under 400 pounds. Your body will still go, oh, you are going to starve, I have to feed you. Like, it's the most sort of overprotective mother that you can imagine, your own body. So if it claws a little bit of weight back, be philosophical and keep moving. Like Anne said, that extra energy, use it to keep moving. and keep eating really, really well, and don't ever let sort of the entry point to your self-esteem ever be your weight, if that makes sense. Harry, again, saying quality of life is so much better. One of the lovely things about that quality of life and the energy that Anne is talking about is that becomes precious to you. Your weight will still absolutely fluctuate. But if you keep well, then you get protective of that and you get unprepared to feel like you used to feel. So even rebooters that have contacted me and gone, oh, too much weight's come back on, they're often not unwell again like they were before. I've mentioned this before. Even if all the weight comes back, the diabetes doesn't often come back. People don't often metabolically go backwards the same way. So weight, if you watch Fat, Sick and Nearly Dead, Joe is pretty much slim and fit. And every now and then when I see him in London, he's a little bit more cuddly around the waist or a little bit less cuddly around the waist. But essentially, he's a good BMI and his weight goes up and down a little bit. And when you watch Fat, Sick and Nearly Dead 2, he actually puts, I love him for this, he puts a chart of how, he got really stressed about the business and his weight went right up, and then he did a little mini reboot and it went back down again. So expect a little bit of up and down. That is not a drama, but being wow, this energy that Anne talks about, this quality of life that Harry is talking about, that's what you grab onto and you hold onto. You've worked so hard for it. You've been fantastic. And this is Mark again. Hello, my love. I find that I am more hopeful. Yes. And filled with positive possibilities. And I get what you're saying. I used to get depressed about thinking about aging, but now I'm encouraged and I understand that I am better than I was 15 years ago. Fantastic, Mark. I'd like to think that the best is yet to come. Without doubt, the best is yet to come, because you know what? Guess what happens when you guys really get your energy on, and then one day you'll sit down with a cup of tea and you go, Raya said to get a bit angry about what the food industry is doing to my people and what the food industry put me through. Maybe I will get a little bit angry. That happens after rebooters have got themselves out of trouble. And then you start watching really experienced rebooters like you guys are now. You're the SAS of rebooters. You know about juicing. You know about all of this stuff. Come back and help people who are desperate. You start reading the desperate posts. Every now and then I pop into the public groups that don't have a reboot guide, and I don't guide those groups because I'm busy, with my own people. But I will drop in just to encourage people, and the desperation out there. Wait till you start mentoring people or maybe getting something going in your community. That's the kind of thing that will really help anchor you in this. And it's all right now that you might be feeling that you're not dying anymore, and you're not, to get maybe a little bit angry about the fact that, our friend Mark watched 5 TED Talks and at the end of it he went, what am I supposed to eat? How can we be this bad at advice? How can the Diabetic Association in Britain, in Australia, in New Zealand, in Canada, and in America tell people with diabetes to eat over 200 grams of carbohydrate a day, to eat carbohydrate between 3 and 6 times a day? I tell you what, I'm cranky about it. There can be, I'm not talking about a bitter anger, I'm talking about that sort of clear anger. That can be a bit of a lifesaver too. Don't retreat from that if you find a bit of that. Gets me out of bed in the morning. I'm quite cross about a lot of things to do with diabetes. This is Mark again. I'd like to think that the best is yet to come. Woohoo! This process has helped me connect to a better future, I feel. And you're right, I can do this. You absolutely can, Mark. So Anne is saying, my doctor recommended that I titrate metformin, which means slowly reduce the dose. Reducing the dose and checking my blood sugar. And that's how I weaned myself off it. So Mark, that might be what you want to do, is just start shaving. At pharmacies, you can get things called pill cutters that will cut your dose in half, and see how you go. And if your sugars creep up a little bit, be patient with yourself. You're looking after an elderly father. You have a lot on your plate. Be kind. You do not have to heal yourself in a fortnight, my impatient friend. Be kind. Maybe take your dose back up. Try again in a couple of weeks when your food is more stable and your sugars feel better, or you're getting better sleep. It will it all weaves in. Remember the diabetes triangle. And I am singing again. Woohoo! Mark is singing. That is fantastic news. And Kathleen, hello, my friend. What is a good threshold of weight gain? How much before you say to yourself, hold on, I need a reboot? Kathleen, that's very individual. There are so many things about weight loss and weight gain that we don't understand. And one of the things that we don't understand yet is the extra sugar that's held in the muscles and the sugar that's held in the liver, the glycogen. You might remember me talking about it. It's bound up with a lot of water and it's quite heavy. So sometimes we think, especially if you've been carrying around a lot of extra unused energy, as Joe would call it, that might be a couple of kilos of glycogen, but your waist would stay small. So some rebooters make a promise to themselves, I'm in these trousers now. The minute I can't get into these, I'm going to reboot again. Other rebooters wait, Kathleen, till they feel, this is what I do. I've got a little bit of allergy at the moment, so I've had a couple of smoothies and some juice all day today. And that's all I'm going to have. Maybe a little bit of broth. So I'm at the moment wandering back into a reboot, which is the thing that I do the instant that I don't feel 100%. You might do 1 or 2 days of juicing a week. Just see how you go, Kathleen. The minute you begin to feel not well and your sugars creep up, then that for me is a big signal. Your metabolic wellness is linked to your weight, but it's more important than your weight. So that might be a better goal to think about. If my sugars creep up, I'm sorry, Kathleen, I can't remember off the top of my head if you're diabetic or pre-diabetic. If you're pre-diabetic, weight don't wait for. But if you're pre-diabetic, your big warning signs are being tired, being irritable, beginning to crave carbohydrates again. Withdraw a little bit and do a hybrid or do a little bit of rebooting. Because of all the work you've done over the last 2 months, you don't have to do a big lead into a reboot now. You've pretty much cleared your system out, even if there's been a couple of parties down at the fun end of town, you would still overwhelmingly have a really clear system. So just wander straight into juicing when you want to. So this is Harry. Is there a correct way to calculate your BMI? I know that there are weight to height ratios, but is this accurate? They're pretty good. Harry, if you Google BMI calculator, excuse me, there are a number of good BMI calculators on the web, and NHS Choices is the best one in Oz. I mean, in the UK. Where am I? Oh my goodness. But there'll be lots of good ones. Now they're relatively good. They are not good at checking whether you are well or not, but they'll give you good general BMI so you can watch yourself go down in the categories. We had a big party in one reboot when one of our rebooters hit obese. Woohoo! You know, there was a big lead up to her getting into the obese category because she'd been in the morbidly obese category, and lots of good humor about that. BMI is a very good sort of rough rule of thumb to see how things are going. And with every 5% of your body weight you lose, you drop risks of things like strokes, heart attacks, and cancer. But also the most important thing is that metabolic wellness, keeping your sugars stable. So don't chase weight at the expense of being well. But BMIs are easy to calculate on the internet, and they're pretty good. Harry, they're not good if you're weightlifting. You know, athletes do very badly with BMIs, but for most of us, it's a pretty good rough and ready measurement. A more accurate measurement is your hip to waist ratio. That is, in research, that has the edge over BMI. for letting us know how metabolically well you are, because your waist thickening gives us an idea about how much fat is wrapped around your organs. And if you think back to those earlier webinars, we talked a lot about fat being wrapped around and inside your liver, around your heart, and inside the pancreas. So that fat beginning to drain will shrink your waist. And if we can get all of you to have waists smaller than your hips, you've probably nailed it, and you are less likely to go back into diabetes ever again. But that can be a little while away, but you might find that you hit a healthy waist to hip ratio before you hit your goal weight. So it's changing size that we're after. Changing shape, that we're after. And so Kathleen, you've got blood sugars. Kathleen's just confirmed that she's diabetic. Sorry, Kathleen, I've picked up your comment ages after talking to you. So then you've got your blood sugars to keep an eye on, to just make sure that they stay in that well-controlled or non-diabetic group. If they creep up into pre-diabetes again, that tends to be when I hear from my old rebooters, because you can always contact me. I talk to people a year after they've rebooted. I love to hear from my people. I love to hear from you. And of course, if you need me, I will always answer your emails. So if your sugars start creeping up and you're feeling a bit miserable and you're about to plunge into it again, send me an email and I'll cheer you on. Always, always. So Anne has a BMI calculator, Harry, on her iPhone, and she got it at the Apple store. And Harry has no hips, so that's a stray. So here's Lynn. Lynn, how are you? If we stray and find ourselves not feeling our best, how long of a tune-up reboot do we do to get the most benefit? Lynn, I reckon 3 days will often kick things in, but it depends. Me and my vague answers, Lynn, I'm so sorry. I reckon 3 days is good. 3 days maybe hybrid, or 3 days on juice only. See how you go. Remember, don't force your body, don't white knuckle it, because you can set yourself up to rebound and eat more. So usually in 3 days you've kicked yourself back into a good vibe again. What can be lovely is to write down a letter to yourself, or write down a conversation. This sounds mad, Lynn, but hang in there with me. It's a technique that can really work. So you would write, "Dear Lynn, your sugars are creeping up again. So tell me, honey, what's happening? What's gone wrong? Are you not getting enough sleep? Are you not feeding yourself properly? How did this happen?" The minute that you treat a drift back to higher sugars with respect and with curiosity and with real compassion and concern, you will crack it. The minute you start loading rubbish onto your head and stressing yourself, you've blown it. So my absolute is, no matter what happens to any of you, weight comes back on, sugars go haywire, you are not to beat yourself up about it. It doesn't work. If you think it does work, go back to Professor Kelly McGonigal from Stanford University and get her to explain the research to you. We know it doesn't work. We know that you will drive yourself into bad behavior again, and it is, frankly, a coward's way out, because you fall back to what is easy and respected by the culture, going, "Oh, I'm so dreadful and I'm so useless and I should have known this about myself and I've wasted all my time and my money." No, none of that. None of it is useful. None of it is productive. None of it will get you well. I'm not just trying to be a sweetie to you. I'm trying to be viciously pragmatic. You cannot afford self-criticism. It wastes everyone's time, especially your own. So if things wander, it's not so much how many days, Lynn, as finding out from yourself what went wrong. A bit of really sweet, gentle soul searching, and you'll find you've begun to let your bedtime creep, or you'll find you've stopped planning in advance. And because the food environment is so poisonous at the moment, anything you grab at the last moment, unless you are well off and living in the middle of LA or New York, or Sydney, probably Vancouver in Canada, it's very, very hard to grab really good food. So that's that, a little bit of an exploration. So you find out what it is that you need to tweak in your life to get back on track. Will we still be able to access the wall? Yes, you will, Harry. Is there another wall that becomes active? No, there's not another wall that becomes active. But this wall will keep becoming active as long as you want to. The longest my groups ever kept running without me is about 3 months, with a core of about 6 of them in one particularly active group. They kept going for about 6 months. They weren't posting all the time, but, one of them, a guy, he lost another 20 pounds after the reboot stopped, with a cheering group of about 5 other women. So you can keep the wall going. So Lynn, I've just got a funny note from Lynn. So you can keep the wall going, Harry. Just keep posting. Just keep posting. I'll pop back after the reboot's finished and see if anything's going on. And if you want me to check the wall, or if you made any questions and I haven't popped back in, send me an email and ask me to revisit the group. I'm really happy to do that. Keep going. Keep cheering each other on. And Lynn said, that's fantastic. It's much less than 60 days. So Mark is saying, but always don't get too cocky as a diabetic, yes? As in no cookies or candy, yes? A snackaholic stuff? I know stupid questions, but I'm a sugar junkie from way back. They're not sugar questions. A couple of reboots back, I did a spiral about addiction, about the cycle of addiction. And what happens, Mark, is when you're still really actively addicted, you can go back into, one cookie, you'll be fine. And then you've had one cookie, I may as well have another one. I may as well have another one. It's very, very difficult to catch yourself doing that. But if you can, pull away. And that might be while you're getting out of that cycle, you might be more strict with yourself and going, I just can't have this stuff in the house. For the moment, I can't have just one. Excuse me. And bear in mind, the food industry is working really hard to make sure that you can't have just one, trying to combine salt and fat and sugar in just the way to make sure you can't have just one. That's an ad for Pringles in the UK, that you can't have just one. They boast about engineering this food, so it's hard to turn away from. You hit a point, Mark, where you don't want it anymore. It loses its grip on you. If you can muscle through till you get to the point that you pick it up and it tastes revolting, or you have one and you don't want another one, then you've cracked it. I don't think that you're there yet, so I would encourage you to be a little more strict with yourself. But the time will come, Mark, when it's so easy to walk away from cake because it tastes revolting and you hate how it makes you feel. So don't worry, it will come. And if you are a junkie from way back, you are not alone. A rare replacement in a self, a diary to yourself. Yes, Harry, a diary to yourself. So hear me in your head saying, be patient, be kind, be curious. So Kathleen, how long do you recommend the most you do juice only? Gosh, Kathleen, there was one guy who was very, very ill and he rocked along on juice for 90 days. And during that time, he took fatty acids and he took protein as well. He was carrying a lot of weight. It was life-threatening, and he kept going. The thing that I find most often is that people cycle in and out of reboots. That's what Joe does now. Joe does 2 or 3 reboots a year. I do little mini ones. I find if I set myself up for 5 or 10 days of juice, I eat more. But if I wander into a couple of days of juicing, I kind of almost trick myself, if that makes sense, because I'm so naughty. Mark, this is why I can help you, because I am so naughty with food. If I tell myself I am not having any sugar, suddenly I'll find myself with chocolate in my hand. If I don't say that to myself, I won't buy any. I can go weeks without eating any sugar. But the minute I say to myself, I'm not having it. So, you have to know the tricks that work with you. You have to be a little bit humorous about yourself and how you're wired up, and be deadly serious about never condemning yourself and never abandoning yourself. So I wander in and out of juicing. And I might juice for half a day, I might juice for 2 or 3 days, I may not then juice for a little bit. I cycle in and out fairly casually. You might find that works for you, Kathleen. Just see how you go. There are other people wired up, like Joe is wired up, where they want to do, Harry, you've probably been more like this. Right, okay. It's end of May, beginning of June. I'm going to kick this off again with another big 10 days, something like that. See how you feel. There is no absolute right or wrong way, Kathleen. We just don't have the evidence for that. What evidence we do have is when people take control and work with their own temperament and with their own body, they are much more successful. They absolutely slam it compared to the people who are imposing a regime that they don't enjoy onto themselves. And Harry, Kathleen's going to be in there. She's going to keep posting. And Mark has found a great book which has the best title, and the title is How Not to Die by Michael Gregor, and he said it's amazing. And then he's saying about cookies, yes, one is never enough. For the moment, are some of the slides you showed available for download? I think they're mostly photographs now, so I don't think so, Harry. But I'm trying to work out if I can download them and post them. If you let me know on the wall which ones you want, I'll try to add them onto the wall for you. So here we go. This is my absolute top things that I want you to know forever. So Kathleen's saying, Harry, you can print the screen and paste in Paint and then save it if you want to. So if there are particular things that you wanted to save, you can just do a screen capture, which on my computer is Command Slide 2, I think. So remember, this is evidence-based. This is not me being a hippie. This is not me being friendly. This is me being deadly serious. This is how you save your kidneys. This is how you don't go blind. This is how you keep your fit. You do not surrender to self-loathing. You surrender to self-loathing. That suits everybody. It suits the food industry. It suits the medical establishment. It suits everybody. It's no good. Oh, Harry took a screenshot, but it's blurry. Harry, let me know, and I'll try and remember to post my copy of the slides into our wall for you as a file. So if I had to pick 3 things with a gun to my head, I would say keep on the anti-inflammatories. This is juicing. I would juice every day for the rest of my life. If I had diabetes, every day I would have a juice. And who was talking to me today on the wall about having a really chaotic diet, but they'd have one mean green a day? And I was thinking, yeah, every day there's some kale. Every day there's some celery. Every day that is better than nothing when things are going out of control. I am addicted to my spicy red pepper juices. That just seems to be the thing for me. I can't get off them at the moment. I go through these phases, and I'm still in my red pepper juice phase, red peppers with carrots and turmeric, really, really anti-inflammatory. So have at least 500 mils of juice every day for the rest of 2017. I think that that's a great thing to do. And making one juice, you guys should be able to do it standing on your head with one arm tied behind your back. Can you remember what it was like beginning to juice at the beginning of this reboot? How difficult it was, how time consuming. There is a very small trial, but it's such a promising little trial of looking at vitamin D supplementation and diabetes. And the only thing that they changed with this group, and it was only a group of 30, so it's not a very good trial, it's not very big, but the only thing that they did is that they gave them 2,000 IUs of vitamin D, and that seemed to drain fat from around their organs, and they lost weight doing nothing but taking the vitamin D. I think a good vitamin D with vitamin K, I can't recommend brands because we're such an international group, but go somewhere that you really trust and speak to somebody about a good vitamin D. I use a little soluble one that I take. A good vitamin D and a good fish oil. I am going to change this now, everybody, to krill oil. We've had some disturbing research showing that some of the fish oil on the market is rancid. So I'm beginning to move away from fish oil. Oh, Kathleen's saying the V6, she can't stop that one. What about bone broths? Oh, Harry, have you hit a hot topic of mine? Let me finish the fish oil. So there's been some work done in America and it's been replicated in Australia. They've analysed the fish oil and found that it's rancid. So don't take the fish oil, guys. Take krill oil, Krill. I just sent it all to you. Krill oil, and for those of you listening to the recording, Krill. It's algae-based omega-3 fatty acids, and they're very anti-inflammatory. Don't drop something like krill oil into a disastrous diet because the krill won't be able to cope with that. But if you're having some juice, if you're having vegetables, if you're doing well, krill might speed up your weight loss, might speed up your anti-inflammatory effect, and it might help undo your insulin resistance a bit faster. So they're probably my two favorite things, but keep on the turmeric and the cinnamon, guys. Fermented foods and bone broths. Wow. Now, we know that the bacteria in your gut is now deeply involved in the way that your hormones, including insulin, signal. So I've spent all of this time talking to you about your cells and about your pancreas. Now, the big wild card are the bacteria in your gut. All of the food that you ate in the first week is in part a way to feed the good bacteria in your gut. And the better the good bacteria in your gut is, the healthier it is, the better your insulin resistance and the less inflammation in your body. So fermented foods like yogurt, coconut yogurt if you're not eating dairy, kefir. Be a little bit careful with things like kefir and kombucha because they start with a sugar solution that the bacteria and the yeasts ferment. So some of them are still very sweet. But sauerkraut, Asian pickles that are a little bit fermented and have lots of turmeric in them, all of those sort of sour fermenty foods are fantastic for you if you've got insulin resistance or diabetes. And we think that by eating all of this good bacteria, you might even be able to speed weight loss as well. And the other thing is bone broths. I am reading the cookery book at the moment, Brodo. Any New Yorkers here? Send to all. Brodo, about bone broths. And so now that I know that some of you are being vegetarian, and that is absolutely fine, what I will get you to do is to keep making some vegetable broths and maybe putting a little bit of something like kimchi or sauerkraut into your vegetable broths. That's something that they do in Korea and they do in Poland and through Southeast Asia. They have these soups that are slightly sour. That's really good for you if you're still being vegetarian only. But bone broths have all that dissolved collagen in them, and the gelatin in that is very soothing, and can help repair a lot of damaged lining in your gut. So it's something that, especially if you add some spices to it and keep it lively, a little bit of chili, maybe some ginger, some coriander, a squeeze of lemon in there, or a little bit of a fermented vegetable in there, that's a wonderful tonic as well. And Kathleen has asked about miso. Miso is brilliant because it's fermented. It's salty, so just watch how you go with salt. Some of you will be sensitive to salt. Some of you will not be sensitive to salt. If you've got high blood pressure and that's been part of what you've needed to manage with your insulin resistance and your diabetes, you might want to be careful of something as salty as miso, which is this Japanese fermented paste that you make soup from. But if you know that that's not a problem for you, then miso soup is a great thing to pick up. And in fact, it's one of my go-to things. If I find myself out and I'm hungry and I don't want to eat junk, I will drop into a Japanese place and get myself some miso soup with some seaweed and some tofu in it. Great food for you if you catch yourself on the hop and there's not a lot around that you can eat. That's if you're in a big city. A lot of country towns are not going to have Japanese takeaways at hand. So this stuff. So Mark, after all of my lecturing you on the wall that there's no one right diet, there are 100 ways to get it right, 100 different ways to get it right. And there's one really clear way to get it wrong, and it's eat lots of sugar, lots of refined carbohydrate. So if you are not eating sugar and refined carbohydrate, you've got a whole pile of different options in front of you. But the skeleton that they share are lots of vegetables and a little bit of fruit, healthy proteins. Coconut oil and olive oil are probably your two most functional oils to eat. But I also, to give myself interest, I'll have toasted pumpkin seed oil, or I'll have a little bit of walnut oil. I don't eat a lot of them. I eat them as treats in salad dressings to give myself some interest. But the main oils you want are olive oil and coconut oil. The coconut oil's got the MCTs in it, which are medium chain triglycerides. They feed the good bugs in your gut. I don't know why I'm pointing to my belly. None of you can see my belly. But olive oil, the polyphenols, that bitter, green, spicy, now that protects your heart. Good food for you to have in your diet. So don't avoid fat at all. Just make it very good fats. And notice also what satisfies you. So if you're on a beautiful diet, but you're dragging yourself around, you're hungry, you're miserable, you're deprived, you're this far away from a sugar binge. If you begin feeling miserable, the same kind of thing that I was talking to Kathleen, I think I was earlier, when she was saying, how do I decide how long to reboot? If you're beginning to feel miserable and you're beginning to crave, you do exactly the same thing. Sit down and go, okay, sweetie, suddenly you want to go face first into chocolate cake. What's going on? Are you not sleeping enough? Are you particularly stressed? Has somebody upset you and you're swallowing it all and it's triggering emotional eating? What's happening? And that compassion and gentleness with yourself is going to make a big difference. It's going to really help you, find the best and quickest way back. Grapeseed oil is fine, but Kathleen's just asking. But I would always eat olive oil over grapeseed oil because of the phenols, the polyphenols in olive oil are protective. There's no real protective mechanisms in grapeseed oil, Kathleen. So people keep recommending coconut oil to help with my dad's Alzheimer's, which is interesting. Yes, because it seems that coconut oil has an anti-inflammatory property. But do you also know, Mark, that Alzheimer's is now being known as diabetes type 3? So high sugars, you genetically, you want to be really protective of yourself, my friend. And diets that are higher in fat tend to make people feel more satisfied. So that TED Talk, she uses a lot of fat in the diet to keep people from eating more. I am more inclined to use a lot of juice and a lot of vegetables to fill myself up with. You've just got to decide what it is that works for you and be patient with a little bit of trial and error. And pick up. You're kidding? No, I'm not kidding, Mark. They're calling it diabetes type 3. And it's not caused by insulin resistance the way that diabetes type 1 and type 2 are, but in Alzheimer's, the proteins in the brain begin to thicken and tangle, and it's sugar that causes that thickening. So you know how an egg white goes from clear to cooked. That's what sugar does to the proteins in your blood, in your red blood cell, kind of thickens them up. But it will also do that to proteins called tau proteins in your brain. You get what they call entanglement. And so the messages can't run through a lovely, clean railway track of neurons. The neurons get tangled up, and sugar is responsible for that. So the biscuits that people are bringing in for your dad are not good for him, honey. But very hard to put somebody who's already developed Alzheimer's onto a lower sugar diet. But you might find if you begin to introduce him more to the food that you're eating, Mark, it would help you. But you might find that he's a bit more lucid and a bit more calm on that too. Just see how you go. That's so good for me to know. You're welcome. There is a great meal planner grocery list creator that Karen found for the PC. It's called Living Cookbook and it's about $30. That sounds fantastic. It really, really helps if you've got something that generates recipes and generates cookery lists until you get really, really used to what you've got. We've got some fabulous people here. We've got Annika and Leonard and lots of people that I haven't seen for a little while. So lovely. And Tracy's with us. I'm worried about Cindy. Has anybody heard from Cindy? She's gone quiet. She's not here tonight. I think we should all love bomb Cindy. I think we should all, what do you reckon, Tracy? We should all madly message Cindy after this reboot. If you've got a minute after this webinar, just send her a million messages because I think this is a difficult time in the reboot for her, the beginning of the end of the reboot. So focusing on the foods that you are going to eat. So go and experiment with fermented vegetables and see if there's any of them you like. I love kimchi, and this has reminded me, actually, I haven't had any kimchi for a while. I'm going to go and buy some tomorrow. Find things that you really enjoy. Maybe Harry's Living Cookbook might be a great thing for you to do. The cookbook Brodo, if you like, broths for making different broths. Just something that's exciting and interesting to move forward with. Remember what a trigger food is. So if you eat something and then you find that it just leaves you miserable and craving, then move away from it. Did Dr. McGonigal do a talk on passion? She did a talk on stress, Mark. So Dr. McGonigal's the one that works on willpower, but she's also done one on stress, and it's great. It's a TED talk, and you can just Google Kelly McGonigal and stress, and you'll get it. It's only 15 minutes long, and it's fantastic talk. Enjoy your food. Slow down. Remember the behavior webinar were some of the things that you can do, like eating off smaller plates, eating more slowly, enjoying your food, all can have a big, big impact on how well you are. And there is lots of stuff on the website, lots and lots of stuff to explore. Now, what about caffeine? So things like green tea is full of the same kind of polyphenols that you find in olive oil, very anti-inflammatory, very protective. But just be careful that you don't begin to use caffeine in a way that stops you getting your rest. And for some of you that are very insulin resistant, you might still find tea or coffee pushes your sugars up. So just be a bit careful. And Harry's saying, what's my take on pork? It's I think that pork is a meat I'd really want to get organic. I think that it's absolutely fine for people who are eating meat, but I would be inclined to get an organic source because the way that animals store toxins, it's not great for us with pork. And overall, Harry, the most important thing when you're eating meat is to eat a lot of vegetables with it. So there's lots of different whites and red meats that are an incredibly important part of some people's diets. Joe didn't eat any meat for 4 years, so it's really wide open to what makes you feel well and what makes you feel satisfied. So your soft drinks, I think probably if there was anything I'd say never ever drink again, it would be sodas or soft drinks. They just seem to be disastrous. And your diabetes triangle, watch out for that. Are you looking after yourself? Are you getting enough rest? Are you getting enough sleep? Are you walking it off when someone stresses you? If your sugars spike, what can you do physically to burn that off? How can you the question is constantly, how can you eat better? How can you look after yourself more? So Anne's saying, I've started watching a free 3-part series by Susan Peirce Thompson, PhD, on keeping weight off. And how are you finding it? Is it good? Is it useful? I've not heard of her, so I don't know her so well. And Mark is saying, thank you for everything. You are very welcome. You've been an inspiration. Oh, I've had a great group to work with. And to think, I tried to back out of this right after I signed up. Glad that cooler heads prevailed and I rose above the fear. Oh, I'm glad that you did too. So Anne's saying Dr. Thompson is a neurobiology psychologist, food freedom have you heard? Oh, I've heard of food freedom. It's very like intuitive eating. I think she's probably very interesting. I've only just begun hearing about her. With the Food Freedom Group, you take away the restrictions so that you can relax. You enjoy what you have. And I would say that if there's a family gathering and you want to just go for it, then just enjoy it. Just relax. Eat slowly, enjoy what you're eating. And if it's something that's going to spike your sugars or not help with your health goals, but you want it in that moment, then stay present and enjoy it. It will do you far less harm than if you eat it going, I shouldn't be eating this and I shouldn't be eating this. I'm really going to pay for this tomorrow. I'm really going. You program yourself to get incredibly ill from what you're eating. What about saying to yourself, this is a treat food and I'm going to love it and I'm going to surprise myself with how well my body handles it, and I'm going to be really good to myself tomorrow and have lots of anti-inflammatory foods. So, and that's kind of what I think that some people, like the food freedom people, do. But they do a lot of weaning you off sugar first. So see how you go. There is that grey line between eating a bit of sugar and then being miserable for days because you're back craving again. It's like having a cigarette. When you've gotten rid of the cravings, it will fire up the cravings again. So give yourself enough time for that to pass. But then if you do have a little bit of sugar, relax, enjoy it, move on. Any other questions? Schedules can be very good. Some people find the rhythm of a schedule really good. Some people can move into a more free-form, eat when you're hungry, stop when you're not, which is kind of your ultimate goal. But you might find at the beginning that eating on a schedule suits you a lot better. Some people found, I know this is something Harry and I talked about, that there are set meals at set times of the day, and that kind of regimen really is soothing and constructive for some of you. So work with what suits you. If you go freeform and you find that just makes you just makes you skip meals and get over hungry, then go to something more structured. So we have until Monday. It ain't over yet. And if you need me, you can book one-to-ones. And I know some of you want to do that. So just send me an email about that. But your group site is with you forever. You always have your group site. And it sounds like Harry's going to be still posting. It sounds like Kathleen's going to be with him. So we can keep going, but between now and Monday, let's organise as many of you as possible so that April, May and June feels really exciting. Okay? And I would love to hear how it went, what you thought of it. If you would change anything, what would you change? Should we have more webinars? We begin to wind the webinars down later in the group. And I'm wondering, is that a time to leave you guys on your own for 2 weeks? Maybe we should have more webinars. I'd love to hear back from you. And there's a chance to win $100, which is about 50 quid. And remember that the long term, play the long game, my friends. You don't want to sacrifice your health for quick weight loss. You want everything to be involved in keeping you metabolically well. Now, any last questions? Mark, you've got your hand up. Is that for me to unmute you? I'm just going to watch for a second if that hand goes down. But if it's staying up, so I'm going to come and see if I can unmute you now. I have a problem. It's not letting me unmute you. There. And
Can you
Mark,
hear me, Ray?
I did it.
Hey,
I managed.
hey, how are you? I won't keep you. I just wanted to say, thank you and to thank the group. This has really been a godsend to kind of connect to all this. It's really opened up a lot of doors in my thinking and where I'm heading. And yeah, it's a little frightening to see it go away. But I saw something really quick on there about private coaching. Do you offer that to the group or anyone that wants to extend
Yeah,
individual
yeah. If
attention if necessary?
people want one-to-one Skype sessions,
Right.
I can certainly do those. So just send me an email if you want to organize those.
I
That's
don't want
no
to become codependent
problem.
or anything, but I think there may be some areas that I still need to work on, so I may need to reach out. You know?
Yeah, yeah. And and Cindy, we need to all love bomb Cindy, so we need to
Yeah,
remember
love bomb to
that.
Cindy, but thank you. I just wanted to say thank you. It's really opened my my eyes up, and it's the most progression positively I've had in the last 10 years. So slow start, a lot of rough spots, and still, but I know it's every day. It reminds me that I'm getting closer and closer to getting this thing done. So it's all
That's
positive. I
fantastic.
appreciate it.
That's
Thanks.
fantastic. I'm so pleased. You take
Thank you.
care of yourself. And
What's that?
and after the group finishes on Monday, I won't be around the wall every day, but you can still email me.
Yep. Well, thanks again. I appreciate it.
You take care. You've been
Be
great
well.
fun,
Thanks.
Mark.
Thank you. I will.
You've put some hilarious posts up. They've been great.
All
And
from the
I'll
heart. Thank
never forget Cracker again.
you. Yeah, it's dangerous, right? Thank you. Long live wheat thins.
Yeah. Take care then, my friend.
Take care, Rhea.
Oh, before you go, Mark, how was your Easter?
Very good, I must tell you. I kept it really, bottled in. I ate a little bit, but I really amazingly found myself going to the vegetables, a little bit of stuffing. I had a little bit of chicken. I passed on all the ham. I passed on all the heavy stuff, none of the kibasi and the sausages. I was dang proud of myself and left before the dessert table came out. And
Thank
that was partly because my father wanted to take off, but it was a good excuse to say, all right, guys, thanks anyway. I'll pass on the pies and the cakes and all that. So I was proud of myself.
That's brilliant. And the day
And
will
still,
come.
for the little bit I had, though, I still found myself feeling queasy.
Yeah.
Like my brother was laughing at me, saying, "Ha ha, well, see what But I found myself being a little bit queasy, and I hadn't really gone off the rails at all. But it was still like, ugh,
Yeah,
you know,
still heavier than what you normally
yeah,
have. And
yeah,
you'll find that maybe this time next year you'll be indifferent to
yeah.
the dessert cart. You won't care if it comes out or not.
Right. Last thing I'll say, my brother was he's about close to 400 pounds, unfortunately. After I take care of myself, my mission is going to be working with him. But he was at a big steakhouse the other night, and he knew that I was doing the juicing thing and all. And I remembered Phil and his brother from the movie Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead. I
Yeah.
hate to reference it like that, but he sent me a picture of a giant T-bone steak, all pink and all rare, like half of it eaten, and I'm smiling, saying, "Hey, brother, I'll bring this home so you can put it in your juicer. Ha ha." And I was going like, "Kid, you have no idea what you're doing there. Please
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah,
No idea you're tempting fate like that." But it was funny. But in a way, I just flashed back to that scene from that movie, and I was like, "Jack, you're not getting it, brother. You're not
yeah,
getting it." And
yeah.
it was like, "Oh my God,
Good Lord. Good
amazing."
Lord. Well, you take care, my friend.
I will. You too, Rhea. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. It's been a joy.
Right back at you. I agree. Thank you.
So, oh, having trouble muting you, Mark. There we go. There we go. Oh, and a few comments have come in. So this is Anne saying the importance of the group and you have been invaluable. Thank you so much. And you are so welcome. Is there a juicer that's a little easier to clean up after? Harry, the one that Joe's got in this picture is the one that I have, and it's not too bad. I think that the magic is having a sink full of soapy water before you start juicing, and then you just chuck it all in there immediately. That helps. But that's a great question for the wall. So if anybody listening to this has got a juicer that they think is fantastic and easy to clean, can you just post that on the wall? I think mine's okay to clean, Harry, but it's not brilliant. But it's pretty much okay. The little whizzy mesh thing, that nearly always needs an extra go with a toothbrush. This is from Lynn. Thank you, Rhea, for all your advice and support. Lynn, you are so welcome. You've made a real difference in my life. Over the past couple of months and well into the future. I'm grateful to the entire group for sharing this experience. We have had a lovely group, haven't we? Really a lot of honesty and a lot of support. And Harry's got a 3-year-old Breville, just back on that juicing thing. So Harry, I reckon Breville's are one of the easier ones to clean. So you might be already up there and as good as it gets. Well, my friends, take good care of yourselves. Let me just go back to my slide. I kicked myself out of the slides too quickly. Get my picture of Joe back. So the exit survey, please do the exit survey. That would be great. And take care of yourselves. It has been a joy working with you, and it is not over. It's not over till Monday. This is our last webinar, but we are still off and going. And so look after yourselves. I will see you on the wall. We've got a couple of jobs. We've got to love bomb Cindy, and we've got to find the best cleaning juicer for Harry. But look after yourselves and take care, and I will see you on the wall. Bye-bye, everybody.